A Navy sailor stands accused of assault 800 miles from the nearest shore. There's no police station, no courthouse, no judge waiting in the wings, yet within hours, he's locked behind steel doors in a cell smaller than your bathroom. The captain has already decided his fate. This isn't some lawless zone where anything goes. Out here, justice moves faster than you'd ever imagine, and the rules are stricter than on land. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about law and order at sea. Most Americans have no idea what happens when someone breaks the law in the middle of the ocean. We see our military on the news, we thank them for their service, but the reality of how discipline works aboard a naval vessel, that's a world few civilians ever get to see. Today you're getting the full story from the moment a sailor crosses the line to what happens behind those steel doors they call the Brig. And trust me, it's nothing like what Hollywood shows you. Introduction. The United States Navy operates the most powerful fleet on Earth. Our sailors patrol international waters, protect trade routes, and stand ready to defend freedom wherever it's threatened. But with over 340,000 active duty personnel, discipline isn't just important, it's critical to survival. When you got thousands of sailors living together on a carrier for months at a time, tensions run high, arguments break out, rules get broken, sometimes laws get violated. Here's what makes it complicated. When you're floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you can't just call the local police. There's no sheriff, no precinct, no courthouse for hundreds or even thousands of miles. So what happens? Does the Navy just let it slide until they reach port? Absolutely not. The U.S. military has a system in place that's been refined over centuries, and it's designed to maintain order no matter where in the world our ships are operating. That system centers around something called the Brig, the naval prison. And what happens inside those walls is something every American should understand, especially if you support our troops and want to know how discipline keeps our forces strong. If you've ever wondered how military justice really works, drop a comment below and let us know what you think. The legal side, where laws apply at sea. Let's start with the basics. When a U.S. Navy ship is sailing in international waters, that's anywhere beyond 12 miles from any country's coast, American law still applies. The ship is considered U.S. territory, just like an embassy or a military base. Every sailor aboard is subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or UCMJ. This isn't civilian law, it's military law, and it's much stricter. Here's how jurisdiction works. If a crime happens on a U.S. naval vessel anywhere in the world, the United States has the authority to investigate and prosecute. It doesn't matter if you're in the Atlantic, the Pacific, or the Indian Ocean. The moment you step aboard a Navy ship, you're under U.S. military jurisdiction. But there's another layer. What if the ship is docked in a foreign port? Let's say a sailor gets into a fight while the carrier is anchored in Japan. Now things get interesting. Both U.S. military law and Japanese law could apply. Usually the two countries have agreements about who handles what. For serious crimes, the United States often takes the lead, especially if it involves military personnel. But if the crime disturbs the peace of the host nation or involves local civilians, that country might step in. The key point is this. Our sailors are never beyond the reach of justice. Whether they're 3,000 miles from home or tied up at a pier in Singapore, they're accountable for their actions, and the Navy takes that accountability seriously. Now you might be thinking, what exactly gets a sailor thrown in the brig? Let me tell you, it's not always what you'd expect. The offenses range from minor to shocking. Some sailors end up locked up for being late to their post. Others, their crimes are far more serious. But before we get into that, there's something you need to know about how the Navy handles these situations. And it all starts with something called Captain's Mast. Captain's Mast. Non-judicial punishment. Captain's Mast sounds old-fashioned, right? The name goes back to sailing ships, when the captain would literally stand at the main mast and hear complaints or discipline sailors in front of the entire crew. Today it's called non-judicial punishment under Article 15 of the UCMJ, but sailors still call it Captain's Mast. Here's how it works. When a sailor commits a minor offense, maybe they showed up late for duty, disobeyed an order, or got into an argument that crossed the line, the commanding officer can handle it without going through a full court-martial. This is huge. A court-martial is a military trial. It takes time, resources, and creates a permanent criminal record. For smaller infractions, the Navy doesn't want to go through all that. Instead, the captain steps in. The sailor gets notified of the charges. They have the right to speak with a military defense attorney, present evidence, and defend themselves. Then, they stand before the captain. It's not a trial in the civilian sense. There's no jury, no prosecutor making dramatic speeches. The captain reviews the evidence, listens to the sailor's side, and makes a decision right there. And here's the part that surprises people. If you're on a ship at sea, you don't get to refuse this process. On shore duty, a sailor can turn down Captain's Mast and demand a full court-martial if they want. But out on the water, you take what the captain gives you. There's no option to say, "I want my day in court." The captain is the law. Punishments can include losing rank, losing pay, extra duties, restriction to the ship, or time in the brig. And yes, there's even an old punishment still technically on the books. Confinement on bread and water for up to 3 days only for junior enlisted sailors at sea. It's rarely used anymore, but it shows you how serious the Navy is about discipline. This system exists for one reason: to keep order on a ship where thousands of people are living and working in tight quarters under stressful conditions. Our sailors do an incredible job, but they're human. Mistakes happen. When they do, the Navy handles it swiftly and firmly. Quick question for you. Did you know the captain had this much authority at sea? Drop a yes or no in the comments. What lands you in the brig? So what exactly gets you locked up? Let's break it down. Minor offenses usually don't result in brig time. Being late, uniform violations, minor insubordination, those get handled with restriction, extra duty, or loss of pay. But when things escalate, the brig becomes necessary. Assault is a big one. If a sailor gets into a physical fight and injures someone, that's serious. It doesn't matter if it started as an argument over a card game or something that happened back on shore leave. Violence aboard a naval vessel is taken extremely seriously because it threatens unit cohesion and safety. Theft is another common reason. Stealing from fellow sailors, taking government property, or any kind of fraud can land you in confinement quickly. The military operates on trust. When someone breaks that trust, consequences follow.
Drug and alcohol offenses are also major. Sailors are not allowed to drink underway except in very limited circumstances, and even then it's tightly controlled. If someone smuggles alcohol aboard or shows up drunk on duty, that's an immediate problem. Drug use? That's career-ending and often results in both brig time and discharge.
And then there are the truly serious offenses. Sexual assault, attempted desertion, refusing orders during critical operations, or endangering the ship. These cases often go beyond Captain's Mast and head straight to a court-martial, where a military judge and jury decide the outcome. If convicted, the sailor could face years in a military prison, but here's what makes the brig different from civilian jail. It's not just about punishment. The Navy's goal is correction and, when possible, rehabilitation. For sailors who make a mistake but can be salvaged, brig time includes education programs, counseling, and work details designed to instill discipline and structure. The hope is that they'll return to duty better than before. For others, though, the brig is just a holding point before discharge. If the offense is bad enough, they're processed out of the Navy with a less than honorable discharge, which follows them for life. Our military doesn't tolerate lawlessness, but it also believes in second chances when they're deserved. That's the balance the brig tries to strike. Before we go further into what the brig is actually like, please take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing, but it costs you nothing and helps us bring you more content like this. Your support means everything. Inside the brig, what it's actually like. Let's talk about what the brig actually looks like. If you're picturing some dungeon from a pirate movie, think again. Modern naval brigs are professional correctional facilities that meet strict standards set by the Department of Defense and civilian accreditation organizations. On larger ships, like aircraft carriers, the brig is a small, secure area usually located on one of the lower decks, away from regular crew spaces. It's not fancy. You're talking about a room with a bed or bench, a toilet, and not much else. The design is purely functional, containment, and security. These shipboard brigs are for short-term holding, usually just until the ship reaches port or the sailor's case is resolved. For longer sentences, sailors are transferred to shore-based brigs. The U.S. Navy operates several major facilities. The biggest is Naval Consolidated Brig Miramar in California, which can hold up to 400 prisoners. This is a Level 2 facility, meaning it houses sailors serving sentences up to 10 years. It's also the only U.S. military prison that accepts female service members. Then there's Naval Brig Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, which handles pretrial confinement and short-term sentences for all military branches in the Pacific region. It's smaller, capacity of about 48, but it's fully accredited and staffed by professionals from across the military. These aren't brutal, chaotic places. They operate under strict regulations. Prisoners get medical care, meals, and access to educational programs. Staff members are trained correctional specialists, many with civilian law enforcement backgrounds. The goal is security first, but also humane treatment and, when possible, rehabilitation. Conditions vary depending on the offense and the prisoner's behavior. Good behavior can lead to work details, classes, or even reduced sentences. Bad behavior, isolation, and loss of privileges. The system rewards compliance and punishes defiance. And here's something that might surprise you. The average stay in a facility like Pearl Harbor is only 90 days. Most brig time is short. The Navy doesn't want to warehouse people. They want to resolve the case, administer punishment, and move on. For serious offenders who get long sentences, they're eventually transferred to the United States Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, which handles all military prisoners serving more than 10 years. Our sailors serve with honor, but when they fall short, the system corrects them firmly and fairly. That's the standard our military upholds. Historical context. Discipline through the ages. The idea of shipboard discipline isn't new. It goes back centuries. In the age of sail, captains had near absolute authority. Floggings, keel hauling, and even executions could happen at a captain's order. It was brutal, but it kept order on ships where mutiny could mean death for everyone aboard. The U.S. Navy has always been different. From the beginning, American naval tradition balanced authority with accountability. Yes, captains had, and still have, significant power, but they answer to higher command and operate under a legal framework. The UCMJ was established in 1950, creating uniform standards across all branches of the military. It's a system designed to be fair, transparent, and consistent. Even in the heat of battle, discipline mattered. During World War II, at the Battle of Midway in 1942, Captain Mark Mitcher of the USS Hornet threw sailors in the brig for minor infractions even as the carrier was heading into one of the most critical battles of the Pacific. Why? Because discipline doesn't take a day off. When lives depend on every sailor doing their job perfectly, there's no room for slacking off. That tradition continues today. Our modern Navy is stronger, more professional, and more capable than at any point in history. Part of that strength comes from maintaining high standards and holding everyone accountable, from the newest recruit to the highest-ranking officer. The Brig isn't about cruelty, it's about order. It's about making sure that when things go wrong, there's a system in place to correct it. And for a Navy that operates around the globe, protecting American interests and projecting power, that system is essential. Here's another question for you. Do you think the military justice system is fair? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Real cases and modern challenges. Let's bring this into the modern era with some real examples. In recent years, high-profile cases have shown how the system works. One case involved a Navy SEAL who was accused of war crimes while deployed overseas. He spent months in pretrial confinement at Naval Consolidated Brig Miramar while his case went through the court-martial process. The media covered it extensively. Eventually, he was acquitted of the most serious charges and convicted only of a minor offense. Whether you agreed with the verdict or not, the case demonstrated that the system allows for a full defense, evidence presentation, and a fair trial, even for controversial cases. Another example, sailors caught using drugs aboard ship. The Navy has a zero-tolerance policy. Random drug testing is routine, and if you fail, your career is over. These cases move quickly. Investigation, captain's mast or court-martial, punishment, and discharge. The Navy doesn't mess around because drug use compromises safety and readiness. Sexual assault cases have also received increased attention. The military has faced criticism for how these cases were handled in the past, but reforms have been implemented. Today, victims have more protections. Offenders awaiting trial are often held in pretrial confinement to protect victims and preserve evidence. The challenges are real. Operating a justice system on ships spread across the globe isn't easy. Time zones, operational tempo, and the unique environment of shipboard life all complicate things. But the Navy adapts. Modern brigs use technology, trained personnel, and strict protocols to ensure fairness and security. And here's the bottom line. Our sailors deserve a system that protects them, holds wrongdoers accountable, and maintains the discipline that makes the U.S. Navy the finest in the world. The Brig is part of that system. There's no lawless zone. There's no escaping justice just because you're 1,000 miles from land. The captain has authority, the Brig is ready, and the system moves swiftly. Our military operates under a code of honor and discipline that most civilians never see. It's not always easy and it's not always pretty, but it works. It keeps our sailors safe, our ships running, and our nation secure. The men and women serving in the U.S. Navy face challenges most of us can't imagine. They deserve our respect, our support, and our understanding of what it takes to maintain order in the most demanding environments on Earth. One last question for you. Do you have more respect for our military justice system after learning this? Drop your answer in the comments. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. We've got more military topics coming that you won't want to miss. See you in the next one.